I'm Helen Jacobsen, and I'm the curator of French 18th century decorative art at the Wallace collection. And I'm welcoming you here today to our special exhibition galleries, where we have a show of our French masterpieces of gilt bronze. For these are great pieces of sculpture, not simply pieces of cast metal. They are made by some of the greatest artists of the late 18th century, designed by some of the greatest architects and sculptors of the 18th century. All the objects in this room are from the last 20 years before the French Revolution. This was a time when gilt bronze reached its absolute heights of perfection, probably never to have been surpassed. It's also a time when architects went to Rome and studied the buildings and the monuments and brought these ideas back to Paris, where they included them in the gilt bronze and the decorative art that they were designing. A young architect called Pierre Paris went to Italy in the early 1770s. We're lucky enough in this exhibition to have borrowed about 20 drawings by Paris, which we have on display alongside the gilt bronze. This allows you to see the detail from the drawings from the Roman monuments in the gilt bronze itself. One of the difficulties of gilt bronze is that we know very little about the people who made it in terms of who they were. They often didn't sign their works. In fact, they rarely signed their works. One of the most famous gilt bronziers, however, ever to have lived is Pierre Gouthière. This perfume or incense burner is one of the finest pieces of French 18th century gilt bronze ever made. In the late 18th century, French fashion was all about looking back to classical world, what we call the neoclassical style. And here you can see it perfectly encapsulated in this beautiful perfume burner. Look at the snake, the way he winds his way down to this wonderful forbidden fruit at the bottom. And just imagine how the light would have caught that, the flickering firelight or the candelabra on either side. This piece was so famous that Marie-Antoinette bought it. And she placed it in her private room in Versailles, in the Cabinet de la Méridienne. The exhibition is open until the 30th of July. It certainly opened my eyes to the extraordinary beauty of these objects. Standing in front of the Avignon clock, you really understand how these are masterpieces. Masterpieces of sculpture, masterpieces of metalwork, and above all, masterpieces of gilding. And they give us an insight into how life might have been at the end of the 18th century.